This man deserves an award tonight. Give it up to Ilhan Omar for giving the award tonight. Yeah. This man deserves an award tonight. Give it up to Ilhan Omar for giving the award tonight. Yeah.
Ilhan Omar. In today's Democrat news, Ilhan Omar and the Democrats, of course, outraged about something else once again. These guys are always outraged. That's the Democrat strategy. Get people's emotions involved so they can't make logical decisions. I've seen them do it 1,000,001 times. 1,000,001 times. Case in point.
The legal right to cancel student debt. To that we say, yes. Is it just for a student debt to be canceled for the millions of people that are shackled with student debt? Yes. Is it just?
Notice what she says and how she says it. Shackled.
For us to look at the problem of student debt through a racial justice lens? Is it just for us to look at the student debt crisis as an economic problem in this country? In 2016, I ran for office on the promise of fighting to cancel student debt. Too many people told me I was naive, that it wasn't politically viable, that there was never going to be a day where people will come around to the idea of freeing millions of people from the shackles of student debt. I knew then that it was the right cause to fight for. And millions of people across this country have now come to the realization that yes, it was the right cause to fight for. Millions of young people showed up in 2020 election to say, yes, we want student debt cancellation. All of you rallied around this country to try to make sure our president, who at the time was hesitant, would finally realize that this man was hesitant, would finally realize, who at the time was hesitant, would finally realize that.
Did y'all catch that? Is it just me, or have I seen a number? I don't know. Anyway, I'm a reserve comment on that.
This was not just a politically viable thing, but it was the right thing to do. And after we got the president to sign the executive order canceling student debt, bringing hope and promise to millions of people who have been begging, marching, what did the Republicans do? What they always do is snatch hope from the American people. What they always do is snatch hope from the American people.
Oh, snatch hope from the American. I heard the guy in the background do I couldn't hear what she said.
And so now they want this radicalized extremist Supreme Court to take away the hope that the President of the United States has given those of us who have been rallying for this cause. Regardless of what happens today, we are not going to stop. We are not going to rest until every single person who has student debt is freed from that and is able to have opportunity in this country. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being in this fight. It is an honor to stand alongside you all.
Yeah, my goodness. The Democrat strategy, right? Blame Republicans. blame Republicans, even though Biden doesn't have the power to cancel student loan debt, but you won't tell people the truth. You just blame Republicans. You'll get people enraged, get them angry. You'll also just, I guess this kind of leads to getting them angry. You'll lie to them. You won't tell them the truth. What a shame. What a shame. Coming from the person that got booed in her own district, and I think multiple times, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's happened to her multiple times. That clip that you saw at the very beginning, yeah. Anyway.
All right, a live look at the Supreme Court at this hour, where justices just wrapped arguments in a pair of challenges to President Biden's $400 billion student loan handout. Let's bring in Dave Rubin, host of the Rubin Report.
Dave.
Thank you very much for joining us, David. So they've taken up Biden's student loan plan. It's estimated this handout will cost about $400 billion. But it'll be a huge test of the limits of presidential power. How do you see this?
Well, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I have talked to a couple of constitutional lawyers, and nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the President of the United States, who's in charge of the executive wing, I mean, he's supposed to sign bills into law. Congress is supposed to write them, and then he's supposed to sign them. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say he can just wipe out massive debt of any kind, right? I mean, I've got 28 years left on a 30-year mortgage. I would love if the president could just sign something and wipe that out. But he can't do that either. I mean, the bizarre notion here is somehow that the president should be king and should be able to decide who all the winners and losers are. You know, people seem to think, or at least the Democrat line on this, is that this would somehow really help poorer people. But there are plenty of middle class, upper middle class, and upper class kids who go to, say, Syracuse at about $65K a year, rack up about $300,000 of college debt, and the president should be able to wipe that away. I mean, there's a moral argument, but then, of course, what you're talking about is the legal argument, and I just don't see how the Supreme Court could possibly back this thing. It's simply not written in the Constitution.
Yeah, and here's the way the Nebraska Attorney General is taking this on. In a lawsuit against the administration over these student loans. Why we're challenging Biden's student debt power grab. The president cannot have it both ways. The Nebraska AG says he can't tell the country the pandemic is over while claiming that it justifies this unilateral action. And by the way, a reminder of Nancy Pelosi. Rewind to 2021 when she said this.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress.
Well.
Came straight out of her mouth. She said it herself. But, actually, I'll save my thoughts. But, came straight out of her mouth right there. She can't do it. Or he can't do it. She can't do it. Goodness gracious. Wow. He can't do it. She said it herself.
Well, and here we are today, Dave.
I can't believe I'm on Fox News saying that I agree with Nancy Pelosi. Hell must have frozen over here. I'm not even sure he can delay it or anything else she said there. But yes, we all know that the president doesn't have this power technically. The real question here is what pressure will the court face and how sort of liberally will they look at the law? But this is a really, really dangerous precedent that basically any mistake that you make, or not even a mistake, I mean, people willingly get into debt to go to college with the hope of getting the good job and accomplishing what they want to in life. Sometimes that happens, sometimes that doesn't. But if you think the president is the one that's supposed to bail you out, I mean, in general, we've become too accustomed to bailouts as is. There's a real problem here. And again, it's going to end up helping a bunch of people who, by the Democrats' own argument, don't deserve the help. I'm personally for equality, not equity, but that would be their argument.
Many instances of policies enacted by this administration or hurting the very people they say they're out to help the most. In case in point, inflation, that is hurting the lower income earners in this country more than anyone. This is far left Democrat Ilhan Omar. today, backing the president's right to forgive loans. Here you go.
So the question today
this
is,
is what we
does
just
the
watched.
President of the United States have the power, the legal right to cancel student debt? To that we say, yes.
And to that point, David,
Just because you say it doesn't make it true. These people,
there's no question this can be very politically popular, and this is a president who is likely, perhaps soon, to announce that he's running for president again.
Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. You know, that's one thing I have to give, you know, the left credit on. Spinning things. You know? Which it's going to be really interesting to see how Nancy Pelosi spins that whole, you know, he doesn't have the power situation clip. Because I guarantee you, what's going to happen is, well, first off, with the Supreme Court, I think most of, you know, there's going to be a majority that say no. They're all going to be Republicans. The Democrat, you know, judges are going to say yes. They're not going to follow the Constitution. Only the Republican judges are going to follow the Constitution. I will be shocked if a Dem, you know, SCOTUS says no. I would be shocked at this point. Absolutely shocked. I really would be. I mean, they're at this point, they're no better than these leftist politicians, in my humble opinion. So, I mean, I hope to be shocked in this situation. I hope that they followed the Constitution, and it's not there. It's not written in there whatsoever at all. Like Dave Rubin said, he said that the pandemic was over and still tried to like hold on to certain powers. Yeah. Anyway, so I think the answer to this case is going to be no. And Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, the Wicked Witch of the West, Maxine Waters, AOC, Ilhan Omar, all of them are going to be out in the streets doing what? Enraging folks. Getting them angry and riled up. They're good at that. We saw it with the Roe v. Wade situation. We saw it. They immediately ran out of their offices and went out to the streets, got in front of the cameras. Maxine Waters was out there shaking her finger, or Elizabeth Warren, you know, saying a bunch of nothing. They enrage their base, so their base can't think clearly, and they think with emotions and not their head. That's what they do. They're good at that. I got to give them credit for it. You know, people still eat that stuff up. And it's amazing to me that they do. It's amazing. It's crazy. It's crazy. Then they're going to blame Republicans, of course. What do you know? You know, surprise, surprise. I think the only way that, you know, they truly take the L on this is that if every SCOTUS, including Dem SCOTUSes, say no. Because if the Dems say no, then they can't throw Republicans under the bus, because the Democrats SCOTUS has said no too. I mean, they might try to throw the whole court out of you know, or blame the whole court and say get rid of, you know, the Supreme Court or some kind of situation like that. But yeah, they couldn't at least throw Republicans under the bus at that point, because Dems rode with them, which they should under the Constitution. So, I mean, I hope to be pleasantly surprised when this ruling comes out. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think the ruling will be a no? Or do you think it will be a yes? Do you think it would be a resounding no? Like the Dems hop on board with the Republicans and follow the Constitution and say no? And do you think my prediction is right? As soon as they say no, all of these politicians are going to run out of their offices out into the streets and get in front of cameras. Let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, comment. Hit that subscribe button before you go. Peace and love. I'm out.